In December 2024, I visited my very first hometown after 8 years. But as with all vacations, all too soon, this one came to an end. Today, we begin our journey back to the mainland with our first flight taking us from Honolulu to Minneapolis with Delta's Airbus A330-300. It's a 7-hour overnight voyage, but with barely anyone on the plane, that's the best case scenario for a long-haul economy class flight. So now it's time to give a final aloha and mahalo to the islands and make our way back home. Aloha for the last time from the H1 freeway as we arrive at Daniel K. Inouye International Airport about 3 hours before our flight. After returning our rental car at the new rental car facility, it's a quick walk across the street to Terminal 2. All mainland-bound passengers have to clear a quick agricultural screening before entering the terminal. Besides checking in online, we stopped by the check-in counters to drop our one check bag, which was $35. And even better, the agent let us check all of our carry-on suitcases in for free, which made things a lot easier. Honolulu Airport is really the best of both worlds. While it does offer high-end retail and food options, the airport heavily maintains its uniquely tropical feel with not just open-air walkways, but also little parks and gardens that you can spend some time in. Of course, my favorite spots to spend some time in are the connecting hallways between the concourses that, aside from being open air, provide amazing views of the ramp. And I was happy to catch the last remaining A330 in Hawaiian Airlines' classic livery before it gets repainted. Our aircraft today is arriving from Boston, which is a new service that Delta had started just a month earlier. And the day prior, I actually caught this exact plane departing Honolulu for Boston, from where it would eventually come back here to take us to Minneapolis. With that said, here she is, November 812 November Whiskey, an 18-year-old A330-300 that previously flew with Northwest Airlines before being transferred to Delta following the merger. Now, I covered previously that Delta has 31 A330-300s, and while all of them have NW in their registrations, only 21 of them actually flew for Northwest. The easiest way to differentiate the two groups is by the engines. All of the legacy Northwest aircraft have Pratt & Whitney 4000 engines, while the legacy Delta ones have GE CF6 engines. This evening, we're departing from gate D2, which has plenty of seating and even a dedicated set of bathrooms, but most importantly, a pretty sweet close-up view of the aircraft. Seeing the plane from this close of an angle really makes you appreciate these machines and the complex engineering behind how they were built. It's also worth noting just how much Southwest has grown in the Hawaiian market. The last time I was here in 2016, the concept of Southwest Airlines flying to Hawaii was just a fantasy. Our first of two legs home tonight takes us to Minneapolis-St. Paul, my first time connecting there in 15 years. Funny enough, the last time I connected in MSP was when flying the opposite of tonight's journey, Indianapolis to Honolulu via Minneapolis with Northwest Airlines, and I still have the boarding passes from those flights. Back then, my flight to Honolulu was on a Northwest A330-300, November 810 November Whiskey, that still flies with Delta today. We boarded on time in Zone 6, and here's something interesting. Can anybody explain why the jetways in Honolulu look exactly like glass jetways, just without any windows? I never understood why they look like this. Delta's A330-300 seats 282 passengers, with 34 seats in Delta One, 21 in Premium Select, and 227 in Main Cabin, with 24 of those seats marked as Comfort Plus. The A330 has a 242 layout in Main Cabin, but because of the fuselage curvature towards the back, the last couple of rows are in a 232. Tonight, I'm seated in 48A. The seats themselves are comfortable and all passengers receive complimentary blankets. Each seat has an entertainment screen with a headphone jack and a USB 8 port, followed by a tray table and the classic Delta dual seat pocket. The legroom is also pretty good, though there is a small box for the entertainment system that could restrict space, but I wasn't too bothered. Universal power outlets are also available between seats. Now, while there are personal air vents, you won't find any reading light or call buttons on the overhead panels, and that's because those are both controlled from the entertainment screen. This setup has one massive flaw that I'll showcase later in the flight. Now, exactly 8 years earlier, December 24th, 2016, I was flying from Honolulu to Chicago, and that United 777 was by far one of the emptiest planes I'd ever been on. And 8 years later, here we are, December 24th, 2024, and tonight's flight is just as empty. At least back here in the rear economy section, pretty much everyone had a full set of seats to themselves. That's by far one of the best things that can happen to you on a long-haul economy class flight because you get all that extra space to work with. Just before pushback, free earphones were handed out, and while they're not the best in terms of quality, they got the job done.
And crew is our #1 priority and the shared responsibility of everyone on board.
6 doors have detachable slides that can be used as racks. The 2 smaller doors behind the wings have detachable slides that can be used for flotation. Pour streamer down to start the flow of oxygen. Remove any face covering and place the mask over your nose and mouth. Put the elastic strap over your head and adjust the mask if necessary.
Delta has a solid in-flight entertainment offering, and if the system is working, there's lots of content to keep you entertained. There is usually in-flight Wi-Fi on board, but we had received emails about a day or two prior notifying us that it would not be working on today's flight. About 35 minutes after takeoff, the cabin began preparations for dinner. Delta lets you preview the in-flight menu on the app, which is really nice because you get to see beforehand what's on offer. Of the two main choices, I went with the tortellini pasta with spinach and pomodoro sauce. It was served with wooden cutlery, a Lilikoi dessert bar, cheese, crackers, and potato salad, and Diet Coke was my choice of drink. Overall, a really good meal. Everything tasted great, and I cleaned up just about everything. I had just started watching something on the in-flight entertainment system when suddenly the entire screen just went blank, and while audio from the show was still playing, the screen remained black. This seemed to be only an issue at my seat because no one else near me seemed to be having the same issue. Eventually, the system rebooted itself, and after 10 to 15 minutes, it was back to normal. About 2 hours into the flight, I figured it was finally time to try and get some sleep. Unlike the 777, which has 3 seats on the window side that you can lounge on, the A330 only has 2, and unfortunately all of the middle rows with 4 seats had been occupied by other passengers. No big deal though, of course, at least I had the 2 seats to myself, but the real question is, how would I sleep? By the time I woke up, we were back over the mainland flying over Nevada. In total, I got around 2.5 hours of on and off sleep. My parents each got a middle row to themselves, and having 4 empty seats definitely helped because they got around 5 to 6 hours of solid rest. I made a quick visit to one of the rear lavatories, and given this plane was so empty, this one was still really clean and in great shape. At this point, I gave up on sleeping and decided to watch something else. But then my screen froze and I couldn't do anything. Now this is a massive flaw with having the reading lights and call buttons being controlled from the screen, because if this system goes down, then those 2 things are unusable. The whole process of my screen blacking out and self-rebooting happened around 3 times on this flight whenever I would be using it. Thankfully, after the 3rd reboot, I didn't have any issues for the remaining 90 minutes. About 1 hour before landing, the cabin lights came lightly back on for the breakfast service. Now, unlike my Detroit-Honolulu flight a week earlier, there was no mid-flight snack tonight, and I assume that's because this flight was a little bit shorter, and also because most people tend to sleep on these overnight flights anyway. Breakfast was just a choice of drink, apple juice for me, and an egg and cheese sandwich, which was warm and pretty good. And that was it. Shortly after breakfast cleaned up, we were on descent into Minneapolis. 15 years ago, Minneapolis was Northwest Airlines' headquarters and largest hub. Today, it continues to be an important city for Delta as its 2nd largest hub behind Atlanta. Our approach into MSP brought us past downtown Minneapolis for landing on runway 12 right, although sadly the clouds were too low and we couldn't see anything until just before touchdown. So overall, this was a good flight. The crew was really nice, the food was tasty, and having extra space on these overnight flights is always a plus. I do have to say though, on both my Delta A330 flights to and from Honolulu, the entertainment system was a huge letdown because of its operational issues. Now granted, this flight wasn't nearly as bad as Detroit to Honolulu, where basically everyone's entertainment system was broken. But still, you would expect that from such a highly regarded airline like Delta, that major systems like the entertainment would be in good working order. But at the end of the day, Delta did not disappoint, because I submitted a complaint form regarding my experience on their website and got 5,000 bonus miles. That's crazy, because when I did the same thing a week earlier for my Detroit-Honolulu flight, I got 3,000 miles, and that experience was arguably worse. What's even crazier is that the 4 flights themselves from this trip would have only earned me 2,710 miles. So massive thank you to Delta for acknowledging my concerns, and hopefully I'll have even better experiences moving forward. So good early morning and welcome to Minneapolis, where I'll have about 2 hours before my next and final flight over to Indianapolis. I'll pick up right here in the next video, so until then, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you very soon.